All right, so next up, we're going to learn how to make our first branch. And we actually use the same command that we just saw, get branch, except now we add on a branch name. So get branch with a branch name will create a branch with that name versus get branch without anything else, just lists the current branches. So get branch, branch name. And your branch name, we'll talk a little bit more about later, but it shouldn't include spaces. Let's just start with that. And generally, you want it to make sense and be informative, but you don't need to write, a whole sentence to explain what the branch is. Also, this simply makes a branch for us. It does not switch to the branch. So I'm on my master branch here. As you can see, head points at master. I have 2 commits on the master branch. When I run this command, get branch bug fix, that makes me a new branch called bug fix. It's based off of the head where I currently was. So it points to the same exact spot. But I have a new branch. I have not switched to it. I'm still on master. So I'll demonstrate this to you. Let's make a new branch. But first, I'm actually going to work on a separate project, a separate repo. Instead of working on the novel we were writing, The Great Gatsby, I'm going to make a new repo. I'm in a folder. I'm just calling it branching. And I'm going to make a directory. I'm going to make a road trip playlist folder. So often when I'm teaching this stuff, I'm torn if I should do something very easy to follow along with, something simple to understand, or if I should do something realistic. I'm going to try and do both, but I'm going to start with the super simple, easy to understand project. So it's not really a project. We're going on a road trip, and I want a playlist of songs, and I'm going to use Git for whatever reason to track those songs, and I'll make some different branches. So I'm going to start by making my repository. So I'm in a folder, road trip playlist. I'm going to run git init. So I have an empty repo. I know that I wasn't in a Git repo, but I should have checked to see with git status, but I know that I wasn't. And then I'm going to go ahead and make a file. I'm going to call it playlist.txt. And I'll open this up in my editor. Okay, so here it is. I'm just going to start by adding a very simple heading, like song-artist. So it's just the header heading for the playlist, right? I'm going to add that file, git add playlist, git commit. I'm on the master branch, of course, just by default. Add playlist header. All right, we type git log. We see head is pointing to the master branch. Now I'm going to add 2 songs, just 2 ABBA songs to start that I happen to like. There they are, SOS, great song. One of Us, also great song. I'm going to add those. I just want to have 1 or 2 commits on my master branch. So I'm going to do git add playlist, git commit, add 2 ABBA songs. Alrighty, so I'm on the master branch, right? Head points to master. We have 2 commits. Now, let's make a new branch. For whatever reason, I decide I want to make a different playlist based on this one that only contains oldies. So maybe I'm not sure, what I want on my main playlist. So I'm going to try a couple of options, and that's exactly what I'm going to do, is make some different branches. And I'm going to make a branch called oldies, and it's just going to include songs that are, they're not technically what the radio would classify as oldies, but let's just say anything from before like 2000, which I recognize for most people is not oldies. So to make a branch, git branch, and then a branch name. So let's make that oldies branch. Git branch. Here, I'll make this full screen. And then actually before I do that, let's just do git branch. We're on master. It's the only branch. Now if I do git branch oldies and hit enter, doesn't seem like anything happened. I'm still on master, right? If I type git status, I'm still on master. No surprise there. It doesn't switch us over. But if I type git branch, we do see we have a new branch oldies. We're just not on it. Head is still pointing to master. You can see that again. Type git log. Head is pointing to master, but now we have this new reference, oldies. It's at the same commit, right? 2 branch references pointing to the same thing. We just happen to be on master. So we're at this stage. 2 branches, they're both referring to the same point, the same commit, and we're on master. So to switch branches, there's a command that we can use called git switch. So this is actually a newer command in Git. I'll do a separate video on the older command we used something called git checkout to do the same thing. We'll talk about that. It's still used in other contexts, but git switch was introduced to switch between branches. So git switch and then a branch name. So in our example here, if I do git switch bug fix, head is now pointing to that bug fix branch. It was on master, now it's on bug fix. So in our case, we have this oldies branch. We are not on it. We see that we're on master. I type git status, we're on master. But if I do git switch oldies, and I do need to spell it correctly. So if I reference something that doesn't exist, it tells me there's no branch with that name. But if I do git switch oldies, hey, switch to branch oldies, my terminal shows oldies over here. If I type git status, on branch oldies, and if I type git log, you can now see head is pointing to oldies. Still the same commit though, I haven't done any new work. However, if I do some new work and make a new commit here, this is the oldies playlist, so what should we add? Let's add two great George Jones songs. He Stopped Loving Her Today. Oh, great song, great song. Okay, so I'm gonna save and I'm going to commit. Now, when I commit here, remember, I'm on the oldies branch. So git add playlist, git commit -m add to George Jones songs, just like that. And we just made our first commit on a new branch. We're on the oldies branch. And if I type git log, we're going to see something we haven't yet seen. We see head referring to oldies. That's what we expect to see. It's our most recent commit. That's where oldies is, because we're on the oldies branch. But we see master now has been left behind on this previous commit. Master is still, remember this idea of a bookmark in the book. It's still bookmarking this commit. This is master. This is oldies. And we happen to be on the oldies branch. But I can switch, as we've seen with git switch. So if I switch right now, this is what we have on our oldies branch. If I switch over, git switch to master, take a look. Now we have just two lines, just two songs rather. We don't have the George Jones stuff that we did. If I type git log on the master branch, we only have these two commits. Add the playlist header, add two ABBA songs. But when I switch back, git switch to oldies, we now have our two George Jones songs in addition, and I type git log, we have that extra commit. So that was just our first example of making a branch and switching. We will get more practice in the next video, but just to remind you, git branch on its own will list branches. Git branch with a branch name makes a branch, and then to switch to a branch, we use git switch followed by the branch name.